video is sponsored by Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. MMI is a school for motorcycle enthusiasts who want to train for a career in the industry. Check the link below for more information.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brno circuit here in the Czech Republic. It's a very exciting time and a very exciting day for me personally. Now, a little bit of a story here. In this job I get asked all the time, if you could buy any bike, what would you buy? And for the longest time, I really didn't have an answer because I never owned a motorcycle for the longest time. When you've got bikes coming through your house all the time, there's no need to buy one. And then I rode a Kramer, the Evo 2 model, and decided, wow, that's pretty cool. That ticks the kind of stuff I'm into. I gotta buy one of those. So yeah, I thought the Evo 2s were really cool and I had to buy one. There was just everything I looked for in a track bike. Precise, well engineered, well thought out, including the crashability of them. Not that I would know anything about that. And that led to me riding the next model in the Kramer lineup, the GP2 prototype with the 790 Duke engine back in 2018, I believe, at the Barber Vintage Festival. Basically using the 790 Duke in an Evo 2 frame, it was the basis of what was to come, which then became the GP2 890R. As you can guess from the name, it uses the 890 Duke engine in pretty much stock form. Kramer chassis, Kramer bodywork, electronics, blah, blah, blah. But then that wasn't enough. There was more to come out of the Kramer, I would call it the skunk works, but it's not. It's just the Kramer factory. What you're looking at is that culmination of the GP2 history, at least so far as I know. This right here is the GP2 890RR. What Kramer calls the peak of performance so far for the company. The resemblance is striking to the Evo 2, to the GP2 890 single R, but the double R, the ingredients that go into this bike bring its track level performance to a whole other level. Of course, everything starts here with the engine. The 890 Duke engine, 890 parallel twin. Unlike the single R version, this one gets all kinds of upgrades. You've got titanium valves, titanium connecting rods, a higher compression piston, larger throttle bodies, oil cooler, very important thing, different exhaust and intake camshafts, a whole bevy of parts inside the engine and outside the engine to boost power and keep it cool. Kramer claims 138 horsepower, and it's different from the RC8C. The peak power is similar, but the GP2 890RR makes more, there's a fatter power curve than the RC8C KTM, which I'm told you can really feel when you're out here at a racetrack, feeling the bike go up through the revs before you gotta change gears again. This being a Kramer and not a KTM RC8C, this again is the pinnacle of Kramer performance, and it goes all the way beyond just the engine. Suspension wise, you've got the WP suspension, same spring rates as the single R GP2 890, but the valving has been revised to give you a wider range of adjustment, both on the compression and rebound side. The linkage for the shock is now progressive for better feel. So a big way that Kramer got 138 horsepower over the KTM RC8C's 135 horsepower is due to the ECU. KTM uses the Bosch ECU, Kramer uses the Mectronik ECU. So that allows the Kramer version to get more power at a lower RPM, but it also allows for a whole bevy of electronics, rider aids, traction control, wheelie control, and thanks to the 6-axis IMU, it's a predictive unit, not a reactive unit. So a cool thing about the electronics platform on the GP2 890RR, it's an open platform system, and Kramer is constantly updating the software on this bike. And it's a thing Kramer owners of the Evo and the GP2 single R have been asking, is how to get software updates. And ever since until now, they've had to send it to Kramer, or they couldn't do it themselves. Now, software updates will just be released open air through Kramer, and the customer can update their software themselves. Clearly a very cool feature, putting more of the power into the customer's hands and less work into Kramer's hands. Yeah, it's a very advanced motorcycle, very track focused, very track oriented. Being a Kramer motorcycle, These are purpose-built and focused for racetrack use, whether you want to be a track day person, race enthusiast, what have you. What I like about Kramer's and why I own one myself is because these are singularly focused on the task of being at a racetrack and being very precise. A production bike, you have to take stuff off, add stuff on, and even after you make a production bike really, really good, there's always compromises that are getting in the way, or just things that weren't engineered because they weren't necessarily made to be specifically at a racetrack. This GP2, the 890RR, on paper anyway, promises to be a really potent track weapon. And if I could afford it, I would probably buy one, and I haven't even ridden it yet as I'm talking to you here. So MSRP for the GP2 890RR is $39,995, and it comes in two colors. This, the Bruno blue. It's a really deep, good-looking blue with a red frame, and the graphics kit on here is part of Kramer's new identity, new logo, and all that jazz. There's a second color too called Brainerd Black, which is a gloss black paint. Still a red frame, still similar graphics kit on it as well. And yeah, enough with me talking. I should go ride this thing, see how cool it is. I might be biased because I own one of these and I've been involved in one way or another with sort of the beginnings of the GP2 project. But yeah, this is all the stuff that I love about track motorcycles rolled into one. Leader bikes are cool. I've never really wanted to own one. This is about that sweet spot of performance, power, handling that I absolutely dig. And all that's left now is for me to don some leathers, get out there on the Bruno track, rip this thing around, go fast, or at least attempt to, and tell you how it is. So through the magic of editing, I'll be right back to tell you how it is. All right, as promised, we are back, and I've finally had a chance to ride the GP2 890RR, and it's not just lip service. Holy crap, this thing is an absolute weapon. The thing about Kramer's, like I said before, these are purpose-built track bikes, built for one purpose and one purpose only, to be the ultimate track bike. You take any production bike on the market today, and yeah, through the use of aftermarket parts, you can make them really, really good. But there's something about a motorcycle that was built for one purpose and one purpose only. And the RR here just highlights that difference between a highly modified street bike and a purpose-built track / race bike. It's phenomenal. I mean, let's just start with the engine like we did before with the technical piece. 135 horses. The extra horsepower on top is definitely a plus compared to the standard R model. I rode one of those a couple of weeks ago at Laguna Seca, and great fun and all, but I could feel at the top end of the rev range, it was pretty much running out of steam. This, coming out of a corner, it was got all the healthy grunt the 890 engine is known for, but then as the revs climbed, so did the power. It didn't taper off right up until redline. Yeah, it was everything I wanted in the 890 engine. The chassis, of course, one of the key features of Kramer's, whether it's the Evo 2 with the 690 engine, the GP2 single R, or now this with the double R, lightness is key. Everything else revolves around that. You can change direction super fast, super easy, and the same thing applies here. Super easy to change direction on this bike, super easy to make mid-corner adjustments on this bike. It's responsive on the brakes, and even just like fine-tuning your trajectory by even like lightly tapping the brake lever to set direction is the reaction from the double R. Again, offsets what you think of, even when you think of a highly modified production bike. If you know Kramer's, and probably most of you don't, which is fine, which is why I'm here, the handling is the key feature of a Kramer motorcycle, above even super highly modified production bikes. These change direction super well, and they feel really planted on the front end when you've got the thing deep into a corner, you're hard on the brakes. Feeling from the chassis, from both ends of the bike. The revised valving of the front fork really gave me more feel for what the front end was doing, especially going hard on the brakes. And there's a few corners here where you're really hard on the brakes and tipping the bike in at the same time. Even sometimes where you're already carrying a pretty decent amount of lean angle and you have to stab the brakes again to either slow for the next corner or change to the other direction. There's a lot of times around here where you're relying on that front end to give you that good feedback, and this thing delivers. The main points for me are this engine is a gem. It's that, for me, it's that sweet spot of power that delivers just the right amount. Yeah, it's fun to ride 1000cc fire breathers, but it's super exhausting. And for me anyway, it's downright scary at times when you're just going at ridiculous, ludicrous speeds. I've never been one to actually want to own a 1000cc superbike type of deal. I want one of these. Just the perfect amount of power combined with a super light chassis, a super light bike. Everything works really, really well. But then the big talking point with the RR here is the electronics package. 9 levels of TC if you include off. The throttle management, the throttle algorithms from your right hand to the back tire are really refined now. And there's a quick turn throttle on the RR, which some people like, some people don't like. It took me a few laps to get used to the adjustment of my wrist equating to how much power it gives, but once you get used to it, you can learn to manipulate it to your liking, and it's a really good direct feeling from your right wrist to the back tire. And then the TC package, well, the definition to me anyway of a good TC or electronics package as a whole is it works without you ever even realizing it's there. And I really don't know if I got the TC to activate, but if it did, I really couldn't tell. The beauty though is you can get your data off this bike and see for yourself whether the TC kicked in. You can look at lean angles, speed, gear positions, front and rear wheel speeds, TC intervention of course. You can look at these things, you can see how you're riding and adjust from there. All of that is delivered to you here. There's even already pre-set up to put potentiometers on either end if you wanted to see what your suspension is doing. It doesn't come with them, but you have the option to. Man, as a dedicated track bike, and if you're serious about hitting the racetrack, whether you're a racer or just a really hardcore track day enthusiast, the RR is super, super good. And I didn't even get to really mess with a whole lot of the settings you can change. You can see with the flipping of the concentric here, you can change the seat height to your liking. This is in the low position, you can make it a little bit higher. You can change the linkage on the shock to change the ride height to get this thing handling like you want it. All of those things, there's all kinds of little things here that let you know when you've changed what thing or what degree you've changed it to. And you can go out there and feel those differences. That's what makes true track bikes and race bikes really cool and interesting, is little changes amount to big improvements once you get out there on the racetrack. You don't want to hear me necessarily talk about all the good things with the bike, which I could do for a while, if I have to think of some negative aspects of it. I'm really nitpicking quite a bit here, but I did notice I really had to, when out on the downshifts, now this is a reverse shift lever here, mind you, I really had to be sure and be mindful of kicking my foot underneath the lever and really kicking up the gears through the auto blipper. If I got lazy and just kind of nicked the lever with my foot, it would not engage the lower gear I was going for, and it would let me know through the screen here that it didn't like what I was doing. To the bike's credit though, I never did hit a false neutral, even with my light taps of the shift lever. If it didn't engage that lower gear, I would just have to get my foot under there and really positively click up to go to downshift one more gear. Again, that's not really a negative, but I'm reaching for straws here, people. What else can I nitpick about? It's not a whole lot, really. Maybe the fact there's only 125 of these they're gonna make, so if you're customer 126 and above, you're kind of hosed. I can't afford one of these. Maybe that's another thing I'm sad about. Some people out there might be a little curious when they take a look at this. The graphics kit you see on here is basically stickers you can peel off. Now, if you're familiar with other Kramers like the Evos and the GP2s for that matter, it's just the fairings are just one color and the frame is an offset color. There's no graphics applied at all. If you're paying this much for a bike, you want the bike to look cool, right? And some might say having essentially what amount to stickers on the bike could be a little bit cheesy. The counter argument would be you can peel these stickers off and put whatever graphics you want on the bike. Everyone's flavors will vary that as far as that goes. But yeah, I'm really reaching for straws on this one. I really dig this bike. Again, well, just the power, its delivery, how it's refined through the electronics. As a rider, those are the things that really make you feel alive and feel like you're having a lot of fun. Combine that with a chassis that's really responsive. Whew. This is a lot of fun. Good riders on a leader bike are gonna get by you, but they're gonna have a really hard time doing it. Good riders on a 600 are gonna have a real tough time getting by you on this thing if you've got the skills to properly ride it. This is an absolute weapon, and what I would love to do next is just compare it against a good 600, even like one of these next gen super sport bikes that don't fit the traditional super sport rules anymore, because this thing clearly doesn't with an 890 engine. So now that we're expanding what a super sport bike is, the GP2 890RR suddenly has a home, whereas maybe it didn't before. So I would love to go explore those different avenues and see what this bike can do against this newfound competition. And with that said, maybe I can actually put that together. So I've talked long enough. I think you get the gist here. The Kramer GP2 890RR is really, really good. If you have the cash and you're able to be one of those 125 people who can snag one of these things, do it. You won't regret it. Yeah, and as always, I'm gonna go back, write out my written review, download my brain, organize my thoughts a bit better. Be sure to go to Motorcycle.com, check my full review there. I'll have pictures, graphs, charts, blah, 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 the whole shebang of what this bike can do and all the features it has, because I just probably cracked the surface of everything it can do. Yeah, that's it from Brno. Good bike. I wish I could get one for myself, but if you're thinking about it, you should do it. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Please comment. Let me know what you think about this thing. Let me know what you think about my thoughts about the bike. I want to hear what you have to say about it, because yeah, this is I know this is something I like. What do you like about it? So yeah, comments below, read the full story on Mo, and yeah, man, ride safe and have a good time. See you later.